Waiting for tea to steep is like the worst thing because I just want to drink it, and then as soon as it's done steeping, I'm gonna take a drink and burn my tongue. The last time I did a reading wrap up was in April, and I have long hair. A lot has happened. I have genuinely tried to film like 4 videos or more, and I'm just like failing. The footage doesn't come out, or I don't know. For some reason, it just doesn't work out, and I'm not gonna force it. Like, I don't want to put bad quality content out on my channel, so I'm just not gonna do it if I don't have to. I'll put mid quality content out. I have been posting TikToks and YouTube shorts, so if you want more of my book opinions more frequently, I post on those platforms pretty much every day. Occasionally I miss one, but for the most part it's every day. But anyway, the hair. So it started with me cutting my bangs. I mentioned that in the last video. That was like the beginning of the end. So I cut little bangs. They did not look good. So I was like, I'm gonna touch these up. I touched them up. I made them look better. But then I realized they didn't blend very well with the rest of my hair because the rest of my hair didn't have any layers. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna cut it short because I've never changed my hair in my entire life. So I cut it short and I liked it until I didn't. I started thinking, what if I added like a little bit of an angle, like shorter in the back, longer in the front? Not like that one Karen haircut, but like, I don't know. I just thought that I would try it. And I had that for a while and I thought it was cute until I didn't. And I was like, okay, the parasites under my skin really want me to cut my hair even shorter and get rid of the weird angle. So I did. So I had it short for a while, like this length. And then I was like, you know what? I think it needs layers. So I added the layers. Yes, I'm doing all of this stuff myself because I guess I'm that cheap. I'll spend $30 on a book, but clothing, I'm not spending more than $5 on a shirt. And you know I'm cutting my hair for free. Maybe one day it'll change, but it's fine. It's kind of fun, and I've kind of gotten to a place where I'm like, I don't even know if I trust other people with my hair. Like, at least if I mess it up, it's my fault and not somebody else's. I don't know. This is where we're at right now. It's got some layers that are not styled, and that is part of the issue because I don't know how to style this. I'm just not loving it. So, since my last reading wrap up, I have read 21 books, and don't worry, we're not going to talk about all of those today because it would take a very long time. What I'm going to do is go over all the books that I read in June, and then for April and May, I'm just going to tell you my favorites because the other ones, eh. But yeah, June, 11 books. That's like an insanely good reading month for me, and a lot of things played into that. For one, I got sick. I'm still actually a little bit sick, which is insane because it's been over a month that I've had this stupid cough. When you're homesick, there's not much else to do besides reading a book in the bath with lavender bath salts. That's what I did, and I got through quite a few that way. I also had a lot of driving to do for work, and I've just been in a reading mood. Like, I've been reading bangers this month. I have not been slumpy. So let's go ahead and talk about them. I'm gonna get this out of my tea. Okay, let's go ahead and get into it. The first books that I read this month were One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns. I mentioned them together because they are a duology. These books are so good. This fantasy series follows our main character who has a voice inside of her head, another entity living inside of her body with her. He talks to her in her mind. Sometimes he contributes magical abilities to her, but at a cost, because magic does not come without a cost in this universe. Our main character ends up working with a group of unlikely allies to stop the world from being consumed by dark magic. When I say I want to read a fantasy, this is what I mean. This book has a little subplot of romance, a really nice gothic atmosphere. I really like the magic system. It's based on these sort of playing cards. Like, it honestly reminded me a lot of Magic the Gathering, but like, imagine they're really rare, really valuable. It was really fun and fresh. I enjoyed that idea a lot. Is this the best fantasy I've read in my life? No, but like, it's a really good fantasy. It's paced really nicely. The world building is really fun. The characters are great. The writing style is awesome. I gave the first book 4 stars and the second book 5. I will say at the end, it felt like some things were just too perfectly falling into place, and I'm like, okay, this is not super realistic, but also I'm not complaining that much because this is great. The next book that I read was Problematic Summer Romance by Hazelwood. This is an age gap romance between a woman who's in her early 20s and a man who is 15 years older than her and her brother's friend. Now, I know what you're thinking. That sounds problematic. The title says problematic. Well, you'd be wrong, and that's one of my biggest qualms with this book, is that the entire point was for it to be a little bit problematic, but we actually spend 95% of the story just trying to shove in your face that no, it's not problematic. See how good these people are. See how it's actually really not inappropriate. Like, the entire point of the plot is to put those points in your face. And I'm like, okay, that's great. It's great that this is a healthy read, but like, why'd you call it problematic summer romance if it's not problematic? I wanted a little bit of problematicness. Anyway, I gave this book 3.5 stars. It read more like a 4-star read, but just because of those components, that annoyance that I got from this book, it bumped it back down to a 3.5. I will say that if you're going to the beach this summer and you want a romance to read at the beach, this book is so atmospheric. It takes place in Italy on the beach. It just feels like you're on vacation when you're reading this, so I could see how that might be nice if you're at the beach this summer or somewhere like that. But at the same time, there are better romances out there. The next book that I read was Evil in Me by Brom, and Brom is the author of Slewfoot, which is on my TBR, and I had very high hopes for this book, but now I've read this book, and so I don't really know how I feel anymore. It's not a bad book. Let's talk about it, okay? So, Evil in Me is about a girl who gets possessed by a demon and has to become a rock star in order to magically remove it from her body. And she does this with the help of some friends while she's being stalked by a serial killer. See, in theory, it's fun, but it's so weird. This book kind of felt like a young adult book when I was reading it, just like the tone and the elements, but then there would be like brutal murder, and I was like, I can't really get a read on this book. And on top of that, I listened to the audiobook, and this book involves singing because it's about a rock star, and there was songwriting, and so the narrator was treating me like that elephant from Zootopia and just singing to me. I hate being sang to. It physically pains me. I cannot handle it. I don't know what it is, but the feeling of being serenaded just makes me physically ill. I hate it. I have a list of things that cannot happen on my wedding day that I've discussed with my boyfriend. One of those is no face in the cake because that's awful. The second one is do not sing to me because I will die. I'm sorry if that's insensitive, but I'm actually not that sorry. I ended up giving this book 3.5 stars. All I can really tell you for you to figure out if this is something that would be good for you is read the back of the book, and it is exactly how it sounds. The next book that I read was Till Summer Do Us Part by Meghan Quinn. I picked this up randomly at Walmart. In general, I avoid shopping at Walmart for books because I know that they're actively trying to drive our bookstores out of business, but I was sick and feeling horrible and I wanted something to read and I didn't want to drive 40 minutes to go to the bookstore. So I got this book. Look how pretty it is. I know some people hate sprayed edges. I love them. I think that they're so cute. But getting on to the actual book, I rated this book 3.75 stars, which in retrospect might be a little bit high for the way that I feel about this, having sat on it for like a couple weeks. I think it might be more of like a 3.5 star book. This story is about a woman and she gets a new job and lies to her boss and coworkers about having a husband. So they're like, well, why don't you wear a ring? And she's like, well, me and my husband are having a tough time right now. And then her boss is like, oh, well, my husband's a therapist. Why don't you go see him tomorrow? I'll make the appointment right now. And she's like, okay. So she gets her best friend's brother to fill in as her fake husband. And from there, they end up at like a marriage counseling camp, etc. It's a wild time. This is like the most rom-com I've read in a long time. The ridiculousness, I think, tops that of the Love Hypothesis, which is saying a lot because there's some ridiculous scenes in that book. This book is just out of pocket. This man, out of pocket. Overall, it's like really fun. This also has a nice vacation atmosphere if you're looking for something like that while you're on a trip. But at the same time, I think probably the last, what is this, like, oh, I forgot there are pictures in this book. We'll talk about that in a second. I think probably the last, like, this much of the book could have just not been there because it went on for so long. Like, I think at some point you can say, oh, in the rom-com, the characters lived happily ever after, and then maybe do like an epilogue after they get married or something. Or maybe they don't get married, but they're still together and happy. Like, that's good. I don't need to watch them going on a bunch of dates and stuff. It physically pains me. This book also has pictures in it. They look kind of weird, I'm not gonna lie. No offense to the artist. They serve their purpose, but they, like, the characters just look a little weird. Like, I just don't love the art style. It's good and it's nice, but at the same time, I don't really want you to tell me how he looks. I don't like that. I don't want you to tell me how any of them look because that's for me to completely ignore the author's description and make up for myself. Get that out of my face. But yeah, it's fun. It's goofy, but it's like excessively goofy. Excessively goofy. Let me just make that very clear. And that kind of hurt my rating for this book. I like a goofy rom-com. I do. But this took it one step further. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on. The next book that I read was Annihilation by Vandermeer, which I rated, what did I rate that book? 4 stars. That's what I thought. This book is about a woman and she is a biologist and she's with a group of other scientists and they're going into this area called Area X, which kind of reminds me of an SCP, like a Special Containment Project. I think that's what that stands for, but it's just this weird zone that nobody understands and just like really strange things happen there. And they're all there to investigate that area. While they're there, they're uncovering a bit of mystery and weirdness. This book is science fiction blended with some elements of horror, which I really like that combination. I think I'm going to seek out more of that in my reading going forward. The writing style was beautiful. All around this book was beautiful. I just think that it might not be for everybody because you did have to do a bit of like, I guess, extra critical thinking, like to figure out what was going on. It wasn't overly confusing, but it was also just all over the place at times, and like there's definitely a lot of lingering mystery even though I finished the book. It is a series, so that makes sense. There was just beautiful imagery. It was so atmospheric because of the way that the places were described. Like I felt like I was there. I felt like I could feel the mist in the forest on my face. It was visceral. I also really liked just the way that the mind of the main character was written. It was really interesting. It kind of reminded me of reading The Haunting of Hill House, just because like you could see when things were starting to become off. And The Haunting of Hill House is one of my favorite books of all time. So maybe that's why I liked this book as much as I did, because it is not my typical reading taste. So I don't think this book would be for everyone, because there were points in the story where you had to sit there and like think about like what exactly is the author even trying to say right now? Like I don't like what is even happening? And that's not for everyone, but it is for some people. Overall, just a beautiful book all around, a little bit confusing, a little bit indirect, but some people really like that, and I may pick up the next book. I have found myself thinking about it since I finished it a couple weeks ago, and so honestly I think there's a good chance, especially because the covers on these books are gorgeous. I know that I have had a little sticker of it up on the screen this entire time, but like just look at it in person. It's reflective and it's so pretty. And like the back has pretty colors. Let me give you a tour of this book. Look at the inside page, and the back page is like that too. Look at the title page. You can just see how much artistry went into this, and I really, really appreciate it, and I kind of want to own the entire collection, but that'll depend. I think I will read book 2. It's just not going to be right away. The next book that I read was a 5-star read. It was Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. This book is about a man that wakes up with amnesia, and he comes to find out slowly that he is alone on a spaceship that is on a mission to save the entire human race from extinction. And he does not have all of his memories back, and he will be working on that throughout the story. But this book is so good. I just remembered that I own it, so I might as well hold it up. I read part of this book physically and then probably the last like third as an audiobook, and I really liked the audiobook. I think that it could be really nice to pick up the audiobook rather than the physical book, because even though this story is really engaging, there are some times when he goes off on a tangent about mathematical calculations. It wasn't that slow. Like it was never that slow. This book is very well paced, but it was a lot easier for me to like stay in the story when I was listening to the audiobook. The narrator just does a really good job. And like, please, if this is all of the information that you get on the book before you go into it, just go into it, because part of this book surprised me. Like I didn't know it was going to go that route, and then it did. It was just such a wonderful sequence of events. I really loved it. I love the way that this book turned out. It explores friendship in such a beautiful way, and it's just so good. And this book also has a flawed character. Every single human is flawed. I love when a book demonstrates that very clearly. It just adds so much character complexity, and I love to see that. The next book that I read was The Only One Left by Riley Sager. This is a thriller with a bit of a mystery going on. This is about a woman, and she's a caregiver with a bit of a rough past. She's actually been on a 6-month break from caregiving because of an incident that went down, which I will not tell you about. So she's back on the job after the 6-month break, and her first patient that she's going to be working with and living with is a woman who is accused of murdering her entire family in the house that she's going to be working in. There are literally still bloodstains on the carpet. This book just, it did such a great job with the atmosphere. If you've read A Study in Drowning, it kind of reminded me of that vibe. There are actually a lot of similarities between those two books, which is kind of odd. They're not similar enough for it to be like worrisome, but there are some similarities. I think this book is better. What you've got is the main character, and she's moving around this creepy old mansion and talking to this old lady throughout the day, and then she's also uncovering bits of the past and trying to solve the murder, like what actually happened, and then somebody dies in the present, and you're like, okay, well, somebody who doesn't want the secret of who murdered this family out is still alive. So this leads to more of an investigation, higher stakes, and just like a crazy plot twists, okay? I have not read plot twists like this, I think, in my entire life. There were so many, and some of them, it was like, yeah, I saw that coming, but some of them, absolutely not. Like, Riley Sager, for real? We're gonna draw a connection there. Okay, whatever you say, you're the author. But yeah, overall, it was a really good read. I would highly recommend. Was it a 5-star book? No, it wasn't perfect by any means. I think that some of the choices that were made toward the end with the demise of certain characters, there was just like cheap, I guess, in a way, in my opinion. But whatever, that's just me. If you're looking for a good thriller with like nice historical fiction vibes interspersed into the story, I think this could be a really good option. Also, I didn't realize how creepy old ladies could be, but they can be creepy. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. After I finished The Only One Left, I was like, oh my god, I forgot. I love thrillers. I love horror. So I decided to pick up a horror novel, How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. Now, last summer I read The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix, and I liked it decently. There were like a couple things I wasn't a huge fan of, but overall it was a pretty good book. So I picked this up, and I had decent hopes. So I popped that bad boy open, and at first it was going well. It really was. But then it got to a point where Grady Hendrix was making it too goofy. There was this blend of comedy and horror, which I think can be done, but it has to be done well. There's like a tight line that you have to walk to make it work. And I don't think that Grady Hendrix was making it work, because you would go from a really tense scene where you're like, oh, maybe I'm starting to feel a little bit on edge. And then in the next scene, you would have just like a stupid joke, like over the top goofy energy. And it's like, there's no way to sustain the horror element if you're doing this all the time. There's a single tab in this book, and it is an example of this, which is not good. You know, it's bad when I'm tabbing the book because there are things in it that I don't like that I want to point out. After some bad stuff went down, we have our savior, who is like a 95-year-old woman, and they've made a plan with her. And she says, then let's rock and roll. But first, I've got a bladder full of passion fruit lemonade that needs a download, and I warn y'all, the walls in here are real thin. You might want to go outside. It just ruins it for me. Some people might like that. If you want like a rom-com, but it's horror, it's a horror-com, this is a horror-com. A lot of people on TikTok were commenting about how they like this in a book, so clearly it works for some people. Aside from the whiplash between goofy and serious, this book was written well. Like, the story was decent. It made me feel uncomfortable, a little bit unsettled at times, but it never actually gave me genuine feelings of fear. But that's very difficult for a book to do for me. I've read all of that horror there, and then a bunch more that I don't physically own, and only one book has ever given me genuine feelings of fear, and it was The Haunting of Hill House. So it's hard to do that for me. I was just hoping for more from this book. Overall, I ended up giving that book 2 stars, and I know that's like really intense, but I did not like it, and it would have been a 1-star book, except I could recognize the actual skill and art went into it. I also felt like the end of the book got a little wild. I think corny is just a great word to describe a lot of this book. I will also add, and I forgot to say, that this book was slow at times. I will be so honest with you. I started skimming toward the end because every scene was so long, and you would have so many like filler sentences that didn't actually contribute to the plot. When I'm reading a book, I need every sentence of dialogue, everything in the book to be contributing to the storyline. Like, I don't want there to just be filler because it's doing nothing for the story except boring me. It just had a lot of filler. Like the line about the lady needing to pee, that's filler. I don't need that. I don't even care about this woman. She was hardly in the book. But I'm not going to go off on a tangent. I'm going to go to the next book on the list. The next book that I read was Practice Makes Perfect by Sarah Adams. Now, if you've been on this channel, you know I love Sarah Adams. Right now, she's my favorite rom-com author. And unfortunately, this book is my least favorite that I've read by her. And it wasn't completely the fault of the story. It's just that I hate the characters. Hate them. And I'm okay with disliking a character when I read a book. I think that sometimes it's nice to dislike parts of a character when you're reading a book because maybe they experience growth, maybe it just makes them more interesting to read. But in this instance, the reason that I didn't like Our Lady in the beginning, and I almost DNF'd over this, is because she was like, I'm so blonde and sweet and kind and a virgin, and my love interest is this big beefy bodyguard guy who's rough around the edges and a serial dater. Like, why do we always end up with this dynamic where we have a super experienced guy and a super inexperienced girl, and you're putting them together and it's grumpy sunshine? Barf. Barf. I literally was going to DNF this. Like, I put this book down, I said to myself, I'm DNFing this, I'm done, I hate it. And then I just had the audiobook and I had a drive and I was like, oh, okay, fine, I'll listen to it because what else am I gonna do in this drive? So I listened, and I will say that the book kind of redeemed itself. Like, we came to find out that a lot of these character traits that I hated about her were mostly thrusted upon her by the people around her, and she didn't actually feel that way or act that way. Like, she kind of did, but I don't know, just overall didn't love it. I didn't see the spark for the romance. I didn't Long story short, I gave this book 2.5 stars, and I love Sarah Adams. This is not changing my opinion of that. If you want to read a really good Sarah Adams book, I would highly, highly recommend The Match, which is my favorite rom-com of all time. You could also try The Rule Book, which is really good. That one takes place at the beach if you're looking for like a beach read. She's great. She has so many good books. I just didn't love this one. The last book that I read in June was Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wang, and this is my new all-time favorite fantasy book ever. Okay? Yes, it beat the Poppy War. It is that good. This is an adult fantasy that revolves around a woman who is the first woman to join this like order of very prestigious mages, and this indigenous man who is seeking refuge in the city along with a lot of other indigenous people. So you have them working together, and they end up uncovering this insane conspiracy. I know I said that I like this better than the Poppy War, but I will also say that if you love the Poppy War, I think you will especially like this book because M.L. Wang's writing really reminds me of R.F. Kuang's writing. Both of these books make commentary on historical and societal issues through a fantasy setting, and I love a book that does that and does it well. This is so good. What this book does, especially that I loved, is that it shows the reality of things. It doesn't sugarcoat anything. It really highlights the way that people are not entirely good or bad, and morality is a subjective thing. I just love when a book says important stuff and it does it while also being incredibly entertaining. The opening scene of this book is one of the best opening scenes I've ever read in my life. Had me hooked, was giving me that 5-star feeling from chapter 1, and it didn't go away. And then I gave it 6 stars. I highly, highly recommend it. I think that this is a fantastic fantasy for pretty much anyone. It's not really confusing to get into. It's very engaging and fast-paced. This book also has a little subplot of romance. It is a subplot. This book would happen with or without that. It is just kind of on the side, not really focused on. I just love it. I just love it. I don't even have the words to tell you how much I love it. So that's covered all of the books that I read in June. Let's go back a little bit and cover the books that I read in April and May that were my favorites. Not all of them. In April, I had 2 honorable mentions. First was Sunrise on the Reaping. If you're on this channel, you know what this book is. It is the latest prequel to be published for the Hunger Games series. I really like this book. I felt that it was a little bit slow at times, and I also felt like in the beginning there was a lot of telling rather than showing going on, which can happen. It can be okay, but I don't know, I didn't love that. The love story between Hamish and Lenore, I didn't quite feel it, but I believe it. It's fine. Those were really tiny issues that I had though, and overall this is a fantastic book. This series is fantastic. If you have not read the Hunger Games series in 2025, what are you doing with your life? Literally go get the book right now. And if you haven't, they're so good. So I ended up giving this book 4 stars, and I am so excited for the movie. I'm so excited. They always do a fantastic job with the Hunger Games movies. I'm impressed by all of them. They're just perfect, and I'm very, very much excited to see how this comes out. So the next honorable mention from April, I said was a book, but it's actually 3. I'm gonna lump them together because they're all part of the same series. I'm kind of exposing myself right now, but these books are the first 3 books in the Duskwalker Brides series by Opal Reyne. Yeah, I picked the first book up thinking this will be something I can laugh at, because sometimes, cough cough, I like to pick up a book, and even though it's ridiculous and awful, I like to finish it just because it's so entertainingly bad. And I thought, this will be something like that. This will be something I can kind of laugh at and maybe talk about on the internet a little bit, make some jokes. And at first I thought, yes, this is exactly what I thought it was going to be. But then it changed. Then it became the most adorable romance. I was listening to the audiobook. By the way, if you pick these up, you need the audiobook. Just trust me, you need the audiobook. The narrator for Orpheus and all of the Duskwalkers. That man needs a raise. I was driving, listening to this audiobook, squealing, losing my mind, and you're sitting there going, that's so weird. Literally, you don't understand. You do not understand, and you are not allowed to judge me until you have read this book. Then you can judge me all you want, that's fine. What I'm saying is you don't get an opinion until you have experienced this artistry for yourself. And guess what? I guess I like monster romance. I didn't know that. But anyway, book 1, very good. Great introduction to the series. I gave it 5 stars. Yeah. Book 2, I liked a little bit less. I felt like there wasn't as much of a character arc for the main character. I felt like she kind of had a flaw where she didn't want to see anybody around her change because she was afraid that they would leave her if they changed, like that sort of thing. She had some trauma from stuff before, but like I thought that she was going to grow from that and learn that change can be healthy if you're surrounded by the right people, like something like that. But it didn't happen. I will also say that all of these books are connected, so it's entirely possible that she will have that character arc later on in the series. I just wish I could have seen that in this book. And then on top of that, I didn't love the Duskwalker in this book because he was just kind of dumb. And I was like, okay. Moving on, the third book. I'm gonna look at you in the eyes when I tell you this, and you can't laugh at me, okay? 6 stars. I laugh at myself. It's so good. You literally don't even understand. These two characters were so meant for each other. Their story is so beautiful. Also, this Duskwalker, he's got a past. He's got some tormenting going on in his brain, and I love a traumatized, troubled man. I love reading about that. I love a love interest with issues. So it's just so good. And I have not continued the series because it goes on and on and on. But I'm gonna be honest, I was looking at some of the covers and I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna be down for that. There was one where like the Duskwalker had like a fishtail, like a sea monster or something, and I don't know about that. But also, I didn't think I would like the Duskwalker. But then their personalities are what they're so sweet. I love them. But they're also monsters. But so yeah, that's my opinion on all of those books. If it sounds like something that you could be down with, then pick it up. If you're like, that's preposterous, then don't. So those are the honorable mentions of April. And let's move on to May. In May, I had two honorable mentions, once again, except they're actually two books this time. First, Beach Read by Emily Henry. Why did I put off reading this book for so long? I'll tell you why. It's because I read Happy Place and I didn't love it. And so I was like, I don't think I'm going to be an Emily Henry fan. Lo and behold, I picked this book up. It is so, so good. This book is about a writer and she moves to her dad's old beach house and is uncovering a bunch of dad lore that is insane while she's there. Well, she already knows the dad lore, but she's telling you about it. But anyway, she's experiencing writer's block because she's dealing with grief and going through like a very tough time. Her next door neighbor is also a writer who happens to be one of her old rivals from college, and they end up talking some because they live next to each other. They end up accepting a challenge where they like write each other's genre, and they're kind of like tutoring each other on how to write the other's genre, and involves them going on all of these little trips together and like working together to help each other master the genre that they're writing. And it's so good. This is not a rom-com. This is like a genuine romance, and it's so good. This book is just so beautiful and meaningful, and I loved reading it. Every second of it was so, so good. I will say, because this is not a rom-com, it is a romance, it does deal with some darker topics. You may want to look up trigger warnings, but it's just a beautiful story overall. I really loved it, and I would highly recommend this. If you want to read something that isn't goofy, but has a beach setting, it's a great book for that. And then the last honorable mention that I have from May is The Match by Sarah Adams, which I briefly mentioned earlier in this video, kind of spoiled it, but this is my new favorite rom-com of all time. It is so, so cute. The story is a romance between a single father of a daughter who has epilepsy and a woman who is epileptic herself, but she runs a service dog training business, like for people with disabilities. And so they meet up so that the daughter can get a service dog, and it just goes from there. It's so beautiful. Oh my god. This is like technically a rom-com, but it also covers like really just deep, meaningful things. And this daughter has a mother who doesn't want to be a part of her life, and she's kind of replaced by our main character who also has epilepsy, who has all of that experience that she can help the little girl to like grow up with epilepsy, like help her to feel as normal as she can and not have to go through all of like the struggle and pain that our main character had to go through when she was growing up. And like the found family. So freaking cute. 5 stars. I love this book, and I love Sarah Adams. But yeah, those are all of the books that I've consumed in the past 3 months. I am hoping to be able to put videos out a little bit more frequently in the coming months. Next week I'm going to Boston, and the week after that I have a conference for work, and I'm going to be going to another state to stay for a week. So I'm going to be all over the place, but I'm going to do my best. I will be reading, I guarantee you. It just might take me a couple months to get back to you with a wrap-up video. Our channel has grown almost to 800 subscribers, which is like obviously not a ton in comparison to all of the other booktubers out there, but like I'm just excited that I've been able to attract that many people that like books and have somebody to blab to. So it makes me happy, and I'm thankful for you. So I hope that you have a nice week or couple weeks, however long it takes until I see you again. Could be tomorrow if you look at my shorts. I'll ask, since we're getting into the summer months, what is your favorite summer read? Could you comment that? Because I want to find some things that are very atmospheric and nice for a beach trip later this summer. So let me know, and I will see you next time.